Securing a federal patent requires years of rigorous testing, highly paid lawyers, and strict government oversight. So how did some of the most visually ridiculous and profoundly useless ideas in human history get officially approved? Today, we are opening the darkest, weirdest filing cabinets of the Patent Office. Prepare to question the absolute sanity of human innovation as we explore the dumbest things the government ever protected. 1. Avian optometry became a surprisingly serious agricultural discipline when farmers realized chickens have a terrible habit of violently pecking each other at the sight of blood. Instead of separating the flock, one highly eccentric agriculturalist filed formal documents to visually accessorize the birds. He designed tiny red-tinted spectacles meant to rest perfectly on the beak of a chicken, secured tightly by a pin. The colored lenses acted as an optical filter, masking the color red and neutralizing their natural instinct to attack. The chosen solution to barnyard violence was literally issuing corrective safety eyewear to the poultry. A bustling farm filled with hens strutting through the dirt, wearing vintage rose-colored glasses makes the coop look like a tiny Elton John concert. It highlights an era of agriculture where manufacturing thousands of tiny plastic lenses was somehow deemed incredibly practical. 2. Sleeping an extra 5 minutes on a Tuesday morning shouldn't cost the exact same amount as a premium steak dinner. But for a specific subset of chronic oversleepers, financial loss serves as the only effective wake-up call. To activate this machine, a person must physically feed a crisp $100 bill into a motorized slot before turning off the bedroom lights. When the morning alarm triggers, a ruthless countdown begins. A failure to smash the disable switch in time activates an internal blade system, instantly shredding the currency into useless green confetti. There is no gentle radio DJ or soothing ambient chime. The device bypasses standard sleep psychology entirely and targets basic human greed. Hitting a snooze button is physically impossible, meaning the sleepy user is forced to actively defend their personal net worth against a piece of bedroom furniture. 3. Glancing at your wrist to check the time usually doesn't trigger an immediate severe existential crisis. However, the formally patented life expectancy watch was explicitly designed to constantly remind the wearer of their own impending mortality. The digital timepiece requires the user to input their medical history, age, and lifestyle habits. An internal microprocessor calculates their exact estimated lifespan and permanently displays a rapidly decreasing countdown timer right on the digital face. Instead of simply telling you that you are 5 minutes late for a corporate meeting, the screen bluntly informs you that you have precisely 3 decades, 2 months, and 4 hours left on Earth. The psychological toll of watching your literal life slip away second by second while waiting in line at the grocery store is remarkably heavy. It turns a standard piece of everyday jewelry into a highly aggressive, deeply depressing motivational tool strictly designed to ruin a perfectly sunny Tuesday afternoon. 4. Walking into a dense forest and realizing you are surrounded by billions of dollars in unlicensed intellectual property is a staggering thought. In 1999, the Federal Patent Office achieved a breathtaking level of bureaucratic failure by officially granting a legal monopoly on a wooden stick. Filed under the incredibly serious title of animal toy, the highly detailed legal document describes an elongated piece of wood featuring a central branch, utilized specifically to be thrown so a dog can retrieve it. The creator essentially claimed ownership of the exact same object gravity has been pulling off oak trees since the dawn of time. The filing even highlights that the irregular shape is perfectly engineered to provide an unpredictable bounce on the grass, a feature carefully designed by Mother Nature. Someone actually paid highly expensive filing fees to legally corner the highly competitive global market of picking up a dead piece of timber and tossing it across the dog park. 5. Why find a chair at a networking event when you can simply wear a dining table? To solve the mild inconvenience of holding a drink and an appetizer plate simultaneously, a heavy-duty belt was designed to strap a wooden balcony directly to a human stomach. A rigid shelf deploys outward, allowing the wearer to balance cocktails and tiny plates of cheese on their torso. The engineering completely ignores basic spatial awareness in crowded environments. Turning around to say hello transforms a normal party guest into a blunt force hazard, blindly sweeping glasses off nearby counters. People at the gathering are highly unlikely to avoid the wearer because of a boring personality. They keep a safe distance because a heavy piece of wooden furniture is aggressively protruding from someone's midsection. 6. A fully functional, scaled-down patio umbrella was designed to clip directly onto the neck of a glass bottle. The highly detailed blueprints meticulously outline the tension and fabric required to keep alcohol comfortably shaded on a sandy beach. Casting a 3-inch shadow does absolutely nothing to combat the sweltering heat of a sunny July afternoon. The liquid inside still warms up at the exact same rapid rate. However, the tiny parasol ensures the beverage looks incredibly sophisticated, resembling a miniature tourist, while it inevitably reaches an entirely unpalatable room temperature before the second sip is even taken. 7. For nearly 20 years, millions of people were technically running an illegal, unlicensed feline fitness cartel in their living rooms. One incredibly bold individual managed to secure a federal monopoly not on a specific laser pointer toy, but on the actual physical act of moving a bright light across the floor to entertain a cat. The patent explicitly covered the universal behavior of exercising an animal with a directed beam. If you bought a cheap laser at a pet store and wiggled it on the carpet for your tabby, you were legally committing patent infringement in your pajamas. The sheer audacity to claim ownership of a Tuesday night spent trying to exhaust a hyperactive pet is breathtaking. It means you theoretically owed a stranger royalty checks just because your cat decided to violently attack a red dot on the wall. Bureaucracy officially classified a mundane household chore as stolen intellectual property. 8. Scraping the dark bottom of a plastic jar with a butter knife to extract the final remaining ounces of food is a deeply frustrating kitchen ritual. Instead of simply buying a longer utensil, a visionary packaging designer successfully patented the double-sided peanut butter jar. The container features a standard twist-off lid on the top, alongside an identical secondary lid located on the very bottom. When the sticky spread drops below a certain level, the consumer simply flips the entire jar upside down, opens the bottom hatch, and gains immediate, unobstructed access to the hidden reserves. It is a brilliant feat of engineering that completely ignores the messy reality of gravity. Opening a lid that has been resting on the pantry shelf for 3 months practically guarantees a massive, oily disaster waiting to spill out onto the counter. It solves a minor inconvenience while introducing twice the structural vulnerability to a simple jar of popular sandwich spread. 9. Relying on sheer willpower to skip dessert is difficult, so one visionary decided to outsource portion control to a heavy-duty padlock. The anti-eating face mask is a cup-shaped, metallic cage that straps firmly to the skull and locks securely behind the neck. The iron grid sitting over the mouth permits the steady flow of oxygen and allows the wearer to mumble, but completely barricades the passage of any solid food. Handing the key to a trusted spouse instantly turns a diet into voluntary facial imprisonment. Trying to casually mingle at a neighborhood barbecue while wearing this contraption requires explaining why your health plan looks exactly like a medieval torture device. The patent blueprints focus heavily on the reinforced locking mechanism, but conveniently fail to address the absolute, terrifying panic of suddenly needing to sneeze while your jaw is bolted shut behind a layer of steel. 10. Trapped in a burning high-rise with hallways filling with thick black smoke, your survival options are terrifyingly limited. One patented emergency tool utilizes the municipal plumbing system as a desperate last-ditch escape route. The device is essentially a long plastic snorkel designed to be forcefully shoved straight down into the bowl of a standard toilet. By snaking the flexible breathing tube deep past the water trap, a victim can theoretically suck oxygen directly from the city's underground sewer pipes. The entire strategy hinges on the ultimate twisted scenario. Inhaling highly toxic methane gas, originating from human waste, is marginally better than breathing burning drywall. Surviving a catastrophic fire is obviously the main goal, but successfully escaping only to live the rest of your life with the distinct memory of toilet scuba diving carries an incredibly heavy psychological price. 11. A balding man could theoretically have sued another balding man for parting his hair at an unauthorized angle. In 1977, an individual bypassed the hair growth serum industry entirely and managed to secure formal intellectual property rights for a haircut. The official filing features intricate, highly serious geometric diagrams detailing the exact method of dividing 3 lingering strands of hair from the side of the head and sweeping them across a bald scalp. He laid legal claim to the specific aerodynamics and scalp tension required to maximize coverage. The documentation successfully elevated the aesthetic of a sketchy used car salesman to a protected federal innovation. Somewhere in Washington, a serious government official had to carefully analyze a mathematical drawing of a glowing bald spot and officially declare the comb-over a unique, fiercely protected human invention. 12. Someone looked at the deeply sedentary lifestyle of aquarium pets and decided aquatic life desperately needed to see the local sights. The resulting invention is a transparent, water-filled plastic sphere securely mounted onto a specialized wheeled carriage. Pushing a baby stroller down a busy sidewalk usually attracts polite smiles, right up until pedestrians peek inside and lock eyes with a solitary goldfish. The engineering challenge is genuinely staggering, requiring a complex suspension system to prevent the water from violently sloshing and giving the guppy severe motion sickness over uneven pavement. It perfectly redefines the concept of a high-maintenance companion, proving that some people will go to incredibly expensive lengths to show a fish what a skyscraper looks like. 13. Cats are notoriously terrible roommates who contribute zero capital to the household economy while sleeping on your fresh laundry. One frustrated innovator attempted to solve this freeloading crisis by inventing forced janitorial labor for felines. The design features 4 tiny microfiber sweeping pads that strap directly onto a cat's paws. As the animal naturally wanders around the living room chasing imaginary bugs, it passively dusts the hardwood floors. The official documentation treats this like a brilliant, effortless life hack, completely ignoring the lethal danger of the application process. Attempting to forcefully slide tiny cleaning shoes onto a hostile, fully armed tabby requires thick leather gloves and extreme bravery. The actual challenge isn't getting the floors clean. It is surviving the aggressive, claw-heavy retaliation that occurs when you try to turn an apex predator into a biological floor mop. 14. Traditional bicycles offer a simple, safe metal frame perched securely above 2 balanced rubber tires. A radical mechanical redesign throws out the outer frame entirely and forces the rider to sit directly inside a massive, single rolling wheel. Operating this specific motorized unicycle involves stepping into a giant circular track and gripping a center steering column, while the heavy outer ring spins rapidly around your entire body. The severe lack of peripheral vision and the extreme vulnerability to heavy crosswinds makes open highway travel incredibly perilous. Taking a sharp corner forces the rider to lean aggressively, risking a catastrophic scrape of their shoulder against the hard asphalt. It demands the user navigate heavy rush-hour traffic while trapped inside a high-speed, gasoline-powered hamster ball. Commuting to work on a Tuesday morning suddenly becomes a deeply chaotic stunt that requires a heavy helmet, intense balance, and an absolute disregard for standard traffic safety protocols. 15. Dairy farming naturally involves shoveling an astronomical amount of manure, but treating a 1,000-pound bovine like an oversized toddler is a radical logistical pivot. An industrial-sized diaper was engineered exclusively to catch waste before it hits the barn floor. Consisting of a massive canvas sling and heavy-duty straps, the garment secures tightly over the hindquarters of a fully grown cow. The sheer physical danger of walking up directly behind a massive, easily spooked animal to fasten its underwear cannot be overstated. It trades the simple chore of sweeping a stable for the incredibly bizarre task of outfitting a livestock herd in giant cotton undergarments. And while the barn floor might stay slightly cleaner, it creates a much worse problem down the line. Being the unfortunate farmhand assigned to unbuckle and launder 50 soiled cow diapers at the end of a long week sounds like a uniquely terrible agricultural punishment. 16. Leaving a piece of raw meat sitting out at room temperature for 8 hours violates every fundamental rule of food safety. Yet one individual decided it was the perfect foundation for a morning routine. To achieve the glorious smell of sizzling pork at dawn, a bedside clock was engineered with an internal halogen heating system. Right before falling asleep, the user slides a raw strip of bacon into a small wooden compartment located mere inches from their pillow. A mechanical timer activates shortly before waking, slowly roasting the meat so it finishes cooking exactly as the alarm sounds. It beautifully blends breakfast automation with a genuinely terrifying overnight fire hazard. You are essentially trusting a wooden box full of bubbling hot grease positioned near your face to safely orchestrate a morning snack without burning the entire house to the ground while you sleep. 17. Waking up next to a romantic partner who looks like they are being prepped for extreme deep-sea diving is a fantastic way to kill the mood. To combat the minor annoyance of snoring, a heavy-duty sleep harness was designed to forcefully clamp the human jaw shut. Thick industrial straps wrap tightly around the entire skull, anchoring the chin with extreme, unforgiving tension. Instead of just rolling over or using a nasal strip, the wearer is subjected to a tactical facial restraint system. It treats mild sleep apnea as an excuse to apply heavy cargo webbing to the head, forcing the user to rest like a captured prisoner awaiting interrogation. While the restrictive gear might successfully stop the heavy breathing and grant a spouse some much-needed silence, trying to fall asleep while your head is tightly strapped into a makeshift medieval vice introduces an entirely new layer of nocturnal stress. 18. Enjoying a casual neighborhood stroll takes a highly paranoid turn when it requires deploying a localized personal atmosphere. A full-body wearable bubble was engineered to completely isolate a pedestrian from their natural surroundings. Equipped with a heavy filtration system mounted directly on the back, the clear plastic suit fully encloses the wearer from head to toe. It effectively transforms a standard afternoon walk to the mailbox into a hostile planetary spacewalk. The intricate design treats regular city streets like a highly toxic wasteland that requires pressurized gear just to exist outside. Fogging up the internal visor while sweating inside a moving, unventilated greenhouse is an inevitable design flaw. The wearer successfully trades the minor threat of seasonal pollen for the overwhelming social stigma of walking into a local grocery store looking like a fragile science experiment. 19. Business professionals sprinting frantically down an airport concourse in expensive tailored suits is a classic hallmark of modern travel desperation. To eliminate the panicked sweat of a tight layover, a hard-shell suitcase was permanently fused to a fold-out metal scooter. By deploying the long handlebars, a passenger can stand proudly on top of their own packed clothes and rapidly glide past the departure gates. Riding a piece of rolling luggage through a crowded terminal creates an incredibly chaotic visual. It heavily prioritizes speed over the inevitable public humiliation of wiping out in front of the duty-free shop. The tiny polyurethane wheels are perfectly fine on smooth tile, but entirely unequipped to handle thick airport carpet. Hitting a slight bump practically guarantees a violent crash near the food court, launching a grown adult and their neatly folded underwear across the floor. 20. Convincing a creature made of hollow bones and delicate feathers to wear a restrictive neon jumpsuit is a biological impossibility. Yet, a formal design exists specifically to enforce strict avian dress codes inside the living room. The bird flight suit acts as a tiny fabric harness, equipped with a built-in pouch to catch droppings mid-air. The goal was to enjoy the freedom of an uncaged parrot without the harsh reality of constantly cleaning the furniture. The official sketches depict a very unamused pigeon strapped into what strongly resembles miniature skydiving gear. The logistics of the application process are highly questionable. Getting the harness safely over delicate wings requires precise handling of an animal that naturally views clothing as a direct, lethal threat. Attempting to domesticate the digestive habits of a macaw is ambitious, but putting pants on a bird is just asking for a severely bitten finger. 21. A quiet, romantic evening at a fancy Italian restaurant is instantly ruined the moment someone fires up a vibrating mechanical tool just to eat their dinner. Rotating a wrist to twirl spaghetti was deemed an exhausting physical chore, leading to the creation of the motorized spinning fork. A tiny engine is hidden inside a thick, heavy plastic handle, powered by a set of batteries. A simple push of a button twirls the metal prongs at a steady pace, effortlessly wrapping long strands of pasta into a tidy bite. The engineering sanitizes the dining experience, serving as a loud, whirring monument to culinary laziness. If the internal motor torque is slightly too high, the utensil stops being helpful and turns the marinara sauce into a chaotic, spinning centrifuge. Splattering tomato sauce all over the tablecloth because your cutlery has too much horsepower is a uniquely modern dining disaster. 22. Exhausted mothers and picky toddlers have utilized the exact same sandwich-making technique for generations without ever involving corporate lawyers. However, in the late 90s, a massive food conglomerate realized they could legally monopolize the concept of cutting the crust off a piece of bread. They secured exclusive legal rights to a highly specific crimping method designed to trap peanut butter and jelly inside a circular pocket of dough. They took a mundane kitchen hack and locked it behind a fierce wall of intellectual property law. Competitors who dared to manufacture their own round crustless pastries were dragged into complex legal battles over the shape of a sandwich. Watching highly paid attorneys fiercely argue in a federal courtroom over the proprietary rights to a child's lunchbox snack highlights a breathtaking level of corporate audacity that borders on pure comedy. 23. Locking hands together for a quick game of thumb wrestling is the ultimate zero-cost distraction, usually played while sitting in a boring waiting room. It requires absolutely no equipment, which perfectly explains why someone felt an urgent burning need to monetize it. A formal design outlines the exact specifications for a dedicated thumb wrestling arena. It is a tiny square plastic ring resembling a miniature boxing mat, complete with tiny ropes and 2 holes drilled through the floor. Opponents insert their digits through the bottom to lock up within the designated boundaries. It elevates a brief childhood distraction into a highly regulated combat sport. Spending thousands of dollars on manufacturing and trademark applications just to dominate the global thumb warfare market is an astonishing financial pivot. It overcomplicates the simplest game on Earth by introducing tiny plastic architecture. 24. Packing a perfect icy sphere with freezing, wet mittens is a painful childhood rite of passage. Someone decided this grueling winter labor needed to be completely outsourced to a plastic, mass-produced manufacturing tool. The snowball maker is essentially a giant pair of brightly colored salad tongs, equipped with 2 hollow spherical cups on the ends. You just scoop up the powder, aggressively squeeze the handles together, and pop out a flawlessly round, aerodynamically lethal projectile. It completely sanitizes the chaotic, messy joy of a spontaneous winter ambush. You can churn out an entire stockpile of identical ice artillery at a terrifying, industrialized speed without ever getting your hands wet. However, deploying an assembly line molding tool in the middle of a rugged cul-de-sac skirmish feels like a severe breach of unwritten playground rules. Showing up to a neighborhood snowball fight with specialized plastic manufacturing equipment guarantees you will be immediately targeted by every other kid on the street. 25. Giving a tired toddler a quick piggyback ride usually results in nothing more than a sore lower back. However, one dedicated parent decided this casual childhood bonding experience desperately required professional equestrian equipment. The officially patented Daddy Saddle is a heavy-duty, authentic leather riding saddle designed specifically to be strapped tightly around the torso of a grown human male. It comes fully equipped with adjustable metal stirrups for the child's feet and a heavy girth strap that buckles securely across the father's chest. Treating a human parent like an actual beast of burden completely redefines the dynamics of a Sunday afternoon walk in the park. The documentation meticulously details how the rigid leather structure protects the adult spine while providing maximum riding stability for the tiny cowboy. Crawling around the living room carpet on all fours is already exhausting enough without having to wear heavy, chafing ranch gear while actively making realistic horse noises for an hour. 26. Eating a bowl of boiling chili introduces a highly stressful ticking countdown clock when your utensil is made entirely out of bread. To completely eliminate the terrible chore of washing dirty dishes, an innovator formally outlined the exact specifications for edible cutlery. The spoon is baked from a dense, cracker-like dough, intended to be aggressively chewed and swallowed for dessert once the main course is finished. While the core philosophy of zero-waste dining is undeniably admirable, the harsh reality of thermodynamics quickly takes over the dinner table. The structural integrity of a baked cracker submerged in hot soup is incredibly unstable. The diner has a frantic 40-second window to consume their entire meal before the utensil forcefully gives up. Watching your spoon violently snap and dissolve into a mushy, unrecognizable paste at the bottom of a bowl completely negates the convenience of avoiding the kitchen sink. You aren't saving time, you're just adding soggy bread to your soup. 27. Losing the tail during the long arc of primate evolution was apparently a massive biological mistake. A detailed medical application seeks to correct this evolutionary oversight by formally introducing an artificial, wearable tail for human beings. Strapped firmly to the lower back, the motorized appendage constantly shifts its weight based on the user's posture, theoretically improving balance during athletic activities. It requires a massive battery pack and a highly complex internal gyroscope just to mimic the basic functionality of a squirrel. Walking through a crowded grocery store with a robotic limb actively swishing behind your knees guarantees a high level of unwanted public attention. Attempting to sit down on a bar stool while wearing a mechanized spinal cord extension forces the wearer into a deeply awkward physical negotiation. Some missing anatomy is simply better left in the prehistoric past. 28. Trudging up a steep, snowy hill while dragging a heavy wooden toboggan is an exhausting winter ritual. Bypassing the need to carry external sporting goods entirely, a brilliant clothing designer formalized the blueprints for wearable sled pants. The garment features a thick, molded piece of rigid plastic securely sewn directly into the seat of the trousers. To initiate a high-speed descent, the wearer simply walks to the peak of the mountain, falls backward onto their own glutes, and slides rapidly down the icy terrain. It transforms the human backside into an aerodynamic winter vehicle. While the descent might be incredibly efficient, navigating a crowded ski lodge while wearing a massive, curved plastic saucer attached to your rear end presents a severe social hurdle. Sitting down on a normal chair to eat a bowl of chili becomes a highly unstable balancing act. The design guarantees you are always completely ready for a sudden avalanche, but sitting on a park bench is functionally impossible. 29. Spitting out a perfectly good piece of bubblegum right before a serious business meeting feels like a tragic waste of sugar. To preserve these valuable chewed resources, a tiny, wearable plastic locket was meticulously engineered. Hanging elegantly from a necklace chain, the clamshell container opens to reveal a non-stick silicone interior designed specifically to store pre-chewed candy. The wearer can casually retrieve the wet gum and pop it back into their mouth hours later without it ever touching a dirty table. Elevating a sticky piece of discarded saliva-covered candy to the status of fine jewelry is an incredibly bold fashion statement. Navigating a romantic date while wearing a necklace actively housing your chewed remnants is a spectacular way to ensure you remain single. The dedication required to safely archive a 10-cent piece of candy completely defies logical financial priorities. Alright, we have examined 49 completely absurd inventions, and there is only one final patent left to reveal. But before our grand finale, it is time for the final verdict. The award for the truly dumbest patent formally goes to the animal toy, otherwise known as a wooden stick. The fact that the federal government actually granted a legal monopoly on a piece of dead wood lying in the grass is a bureaucratic failure of epic proportions. Do you agree with this verdict? Let us know in the comments. And now for our final blueprint. 30. Designing athletic gear for a python presents a severe anatomical roadblock. A snake is essentially 100% neck. Because a traditional dog collar would slide right off, an official patent was filed for a specialized reptile walking system. It abandons the collar entirely in favor of a long, reinforced nylon tube. The owner is expected to carefully coax an incredibly uncooperative, cold-blooded predator into this tight fabric casing, attach a string, and proudly drag it down the sidewalk. It completely ignores the biological reality that snakes prefer to sit motionless under a heat lamp and digest a rat for 2 weeks. They have absolutely zero interest in morning cardio. From the perspective of a confused neighbor sipping coffee by the window, the The visual is completely unhinged. It just looks like a deeply eccentric person taking a heavy, highly aggressive garden hose for a brisk suburban stroll. It is amazing how much time and money humanity wastes trying to legally own terrible ideas. We have built an entire legal system just to protect our most useless thoughts. Do you think that at least one of these patents can be called ingenious and useful? If so, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey through government madness, hit like, subscribe, and stay endlessly curious.